Thank you, Stepan. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen here and whoever is on the stream. First of all, thank you for the invitation to speak at the series of events on Objectivism. Just introduction. So this is going to be in English. Apparently we have one English speaker here, as I understand. Maybe someone on the stream is also English speaker, so it does make sense to continue in English. So a couple of organizational remarks, please. This should be 90 minutes, roughly. 60 minutes we might talk, and the 30 minutes in the second part should be open for your questions, Q&A period. So I would like to kindly ask you not to interrupt me with questions and really let me finish the presentation so that I can go through the whole presentation and then save your comments or questions to the end of it. Unless you have, you're completely lost in terms of not understanding even some words that I'm saying that would completely prevent you from following me. Unless that happens, please let me go through the whole presentation. So to begin, this is only going to be scratching the surface, right? This is a philosophy, unfortunately not taken seriously by professional philosophers. It only, a couple of decades ago, only began to start to be taken somewhere seriously before it was completely neglected or ridiculed and smeared. So this is a serious philosophy, and my goal is really to just present you with the very basics and sort of motivate you, if you're interested in philosophy, motivate you to dig deeper, to study on your own philosophy. And my goal actually is maybe less to explain objectivism. What is much more important, I think, is to motivate you to study philosophy, to understand why philosophy is extremely important in our life. So that's the sort of beginning of it. Just to understand, appreciate how much, how crucially in our lives philosophy, any philosophy is, and this one is a radically new philosophy. So, not sure whether everyone here, is familiar at least with some novels by Ayn Rand, or is it completely new for lady or someone? You don't know at all. All right. So just very briefly. Ayn Rand was a novelist, philosopher, American novelist, philosopher. Her dates are 1905, born in Russia, fled to the United States in the 20s, in the previous century, in 1926, and immigrated to the United States, where she lived the whole the rest of her life. She really became novelist, wrote several famous novels, most importantly Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead, and she died in 1982, so it's like 40 years, more than 40 years after her death. And while thinking about her novels, about her heroes, she realized very early that to project her ideal of man, how man should live, she couldn't get any inspiration from existing ideas, from existing world. She had to develop completely new approach to life, to thinking about the world, and she actually developed completely new philosophy. So she was intentionally, by intention, from very young age, interested to become a novelist, but she also became a extremely important philosopher. So that's Ayn Rand. What is important at the beginning is just to separate her from the rest of people who seem to have much common with her. And most people who think that Rand has much common with other thinkers concentrate on her politics, right? But her politics, of course, she's defender of capitalism, she's defender of freedom, but this is not her essence. Her essence is, as the quote from her clearly says, I think it's worth really reading the quote. I'm not primarily an advocate of capitalism, but of egoism.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I need to
yeah. Sorry, there's a technical issue here.
Okay, it seems fine, which is okay, which is good.
So can I continue?
Yes, you can. Sorry.
Right. So I'm not primarily advocate of capitalism, but of egoism, and I'm not primarily advocate of egoism, but of reason. If one recognizes the supremacy of reason and applies it consistently, all the rest follows, which immediately tells you that she goes much deeper. This is philosophy. This is about morality. This is about knowledge, how we get to know reality. So she is not starting, I want freedom, I want capitalism, and now I need to find out, what leads to it. Sort of somehow find the right foundation for liberty, for capitalism. No, she starts with the beginning, with where any serious philosopher should start, with looking at reality, looking at who is man, how he gets to know reality, what is reality, how he should act in reality, and how society in which he lives should be organized. So this is extremely important. She's not a libertarian, she's not a conservative, she's a major philosopher advocating a radically new philosophy. And at the end of that philosophy is political philosophy advocating capitalism and liberty, and individual rights. So this is very important. Before I get to sort of explaining or identifying what actually philosophy is, how we should treat it, it's important to recognize that philosophy is everywhere. Every one of us has philosophy. Because in anything we say, any value we hold, any idea we hold, advocate, act on, is dependent on something, on previous deeper ideas, right? So every one of us holds some philosophy, and the point is that most of the people, which is not something strange or unusual, most of people hold their philosophy unconsciously. They're not aware of their deepest assumptions of their ideas. If you ask them, how do you know? Why? If you discuss with anyone something controversial, and you differ in your positions, and you continue to ask why, how do you know, you necessarily end up in the deepest questions. You know, how do I know? Like, if you hear, don't be selfish, selfishness is bad, or capitalism is about exploitation, and capitalism is unjust, and it produces inequality and everything. If you ask about all these concepts, why is capitalism unjust? Because, you know, it produces this inequality and exploits people and everything. What do you mean by inequality? Why should we be equal? Why? What is justice after all? How do we develop, or how do we use this concept? Where does the concept come from? So all of our ideas, all of our values, what is good or not good, ultimately comes from some basic, deepest assumptions that no one challenges. And these assumptions are about the nature of man, about the most fundamental issues of our life and of the existence of the world we live in. Nature of man, what good is, what virtues are. How about religion? You know, many people are religious, so they automatically assume they have been raised from their childhood to be, Christians or Muslims. They take it for granted, but it's not granted. Why? Why do you believe in God? Because I was told so, and it's how I was raised. You know, that's who I am. But all these issues, all these questions, or these values people hold are not at all self-evident. We have to ask why. Why should I hold that, and why should I not hold something different? So it's about the basic questions of knowledge, about can we achieve certainty in our knowledge of reality. The government, if you ask most people around the world, what is the government? No, most people don't know how to answer. Well, the government is, you know, that's police, and that's all, you know, all the bureaucrats do, and that's the army, and that's all we're financing with taxes. Actually, whatever the government does, that's the government. No one tells you the essence, what the government is. What is the essence of the government? No one tells you that the essence of the government is usage of physical force. No one tells you that, because people don't think about the deepest ideas, don't think about essentials, right? That's all these hidden implicit assumptions. That's why we talk about implicit philosophy. Everyone holds philosophy. Where do we get this implicit philosophy? How do we acquire all those values, ideas? From our very childhood, from parents, from the family, from schools, from books, from the very start. We watch films, we go to theaters, we have, if we're religious, we go to the church, we have priests, and we have intellectual authorities. We have the media, where all authorities are given space to talk to, as authorities, to talk to other people, you know, what is good, and what should we do in that or that area, and so forth. So through all these channels, from the very beginning of human life, every person is somehow formed by ideas that are communicated to him in some way. And most of these ideas he takes for granted, because it, you know, begins from the childhood, and not many people, very few people question those ideas that they hear everywhere. They hear them everywhere. Well, of course, it's common in the United States. It's common that you believe in God. You know, if you don't believe in God, you're sort of respected, accepted, but you know, it's a little bit strange. In the United States, if you don't believe in God, you know, this very religious country, or in Poland, right? It's common, it's self-evident, but it's not self-evident, right? So we have to go to these deepest assumptions and challenge them. Are they true? What is truth, after all? And these assumptions that we take for granted, these implicit ideas, we don't know explicitly how they should be formulated, conceptualized. We get them through different expressions, like various slogans, catchphrases, cliches. That's how we get those ideas implicitly from the very beginning of our lives. So these assumptions, these basic ideas are often, most of the time, they're false and contradictory, and they're as I said, very rarely explicitly communicated, right? No one tells you explicitly, this is a glass, and at the same time, this is a cucumber. No one tells you that, because this is too explicit. But implicitly, many ideas in philosophy or outside philosophy implicitly tell you this, that this is glass and this is not glass at the same time. This is and is not. So where are we? We're lost. So is it glass or is it not? So implicitly we're taught many deepest ideas that should be questioned, challenged. I'm not saying completely rejected. No, that's not what I'm saying. They should be challenged and questioned. So this is the implicit philosophy. Everyone holds it. But philosophy is not meant to be something implicit. Philosophy is a science, right? Like special sciences. Philosophy is also a science. It is the most important science because it deals with the most fundamental general questions, as I indicated, of human existence, of existence around us, and of man's nature and man's relationship to existence. So what philosophy as a subject, as a discipline, as a field, crucial field of knowledge, base of knowledge, what it actually does is this. This is extremely important. Philosophy takes implicit assumptions and premises of our ideas. It takes this implicit philosophy expressed in various values, attitudes, ideas, and takes them to the surface, makes them explicit, makes them consciously known and thought about. So it says, oh, when you think this about selfishness, this means that you're actually coming from these assumptions. And what is the concept of selfishness? What are concepts anyway? How do we derive concept? Is the definition of that concept okay? Is it right? And why do we need definitions and all of that? So all of these questions, philosophy explicitly asks and is supposed to explicitly answer. But unfortunately, this is not what modern philosophy, and by modern I mean not philosophy in the last 10 or 20 years. By modern philosophy I mean 100 or more, 100 plus years of philosophy. This is what I call modern philosophy, has collapsed in this task and in actually its role as a guidance of human life, of human values and ideas, and that's why almost no one takes philosophy today seriously. Most people simply don't care. They think philosophy is utterly impractical, which it is. given the state of philosophy, what it actually teaches, if we really go explicit and learn what philosophy teaches, what ideas it holds, you know, everyone who is trying to really perceive reality by his own senses and by common sense, using logic, Aristotelian logic, everyone must conclude, well, you know, whatever you now take as a philosophy, it's impractical, it's detached from reality. All of your abstractions and the way you use them simply doesn't make sense. I don't understand what you're talking about. It's just useless collection of ideologies that don't make any sense, and we better not use it. We better be practical and you know, perhaps throw out completely the ideologies and all abstract things, and let's be practical, right? That's the conclusion that people make given what current philosophy produces and tells them. So this is actually how I would summarize it. There's a conventional view of philosophy, which is current modern philosophy, which in every introductory textbook, or maybe not even introductory, you know, beginning chapters, tells you philosophy is about what? Well, perhaps we don't know exactly what the subject is. Maybe we should even question the subject. We don't know anymore what the proper subject of philosophy is. But what is absolutely certain is that we are not even supposed to give definitive answers. We should all the time question everything, questions, and we should doubt everything that we say. Everything is uncertain. So philosophy actually is just groping in the dark, just posing questions, and of course trying to answer, but it's all uncertain, and maybe there are other schools, and who knows who is right, and nothing is certain, nothing is absolute, and so forth. There is no one single truth, right? Versus what we should expect from philosophy, and that's the rational approach to philosophy, which is very radical today. If anyone comes with, you know, a set of ideas, philosophical ideas, and tells you here are the questions, philosophical questions. What is man? What is the nature of man? What are concepts? What are ideas? Why do we need them? What is knowledge? Why do we need knowledge at all? Maybe we're creating this reality around us. Maybe it's our mind that creates it. Maybe it's not given that we should just accept and respect natural laws. Maybe it's just, you know, product of our mind. So all these questions have to be posed, and we expect and should expect answers, and true answers and definitive answers, not doubts and with no certain knowledge, which actually, when the knowledge is, you know, not certain, we never know, then the knowledge is really useless. There is no knowledge if we don't know. If we just, you know, take something as maybe, and who knows, and everything is questionable. So I was trying to, when I thought about the motivation, I thought, you know, how to explain to people, newcomers to philosophy, how to explain them what happens with current philosophy, right? So let's have a skyscraper which is supposed to represent the whole civilization. Everything in our civilization, everywhere around the world, happens in that skyscraper, right? And you see the skyscraper is, you know, the lower floors are sort of not completely in the fog, but the top floors are completely in the fog, right? So who is and what ideas are, and all that skyscraper is, you know, all what people do, what ideas and values they hold, right? So who is inhabiting the skyscraper? Everyone, right? So on the top of the skyscraper, of course, we have fog there. You know, we don't see there's you know not much to be seen there. There we have philosophers and theologians, right? And these people deal with the most important things about morality. You know, what is good? Political philosophy. How should society be organized? What is the government? Do we need a government at all? What the roles are? They're dealing with the questions of religion. Maybe there is not just this world. Maybe there is other world. Maybe you know we're supposed to have a second life after our death, and we will be reunited with God, and so it's all of these extremely important abstract ideas. And what this is supposed to represent or show or demonstrate is that all these people are completely in the fog. They're lost. If reality is something to be clearly seen, they don't see anything. They're completely detached from reality, completely detached. They don't deal with reality at all. That's the state of the modern philosophy, right? Below these top floors, where there is a complete fog, completely divorced from reality, from what we see around us, how we act, there are sort of lower but still fairly high floors. They're full of intellectuals, celebrities, priests, government, politicians, media, you know, universities, especially humanities, intellectuals, professors in economics and other humanities, and all the ideologies, you know, are somewhere in this still very foggy area. Maybe there is a little bit more visibility there, but not much, right? And everything that is, or almost everything that is presented in literature, film, all of that is pretty foggy. But there is some visibility. Not everything is completely divorced from reality. Then there is a middle floor somewhere there, where we would have natural sciences like physics, chemistry, astronomy, biology, medicine, and there is a you know, pretty good visibility, but you still see there is some fog there. There are some ideas that our sciences present us that are still, you know, divorced from reality, that are clearly don't make sense if you think about them. Like, I don't know if it's official astronomy, but if someone tells you there is a start of the universe, that before universe there existed nothing, and then all of a sudden Big Bang, and something happened, and out of nothing we had all of a sudden something, right? Something happened. Well, if that's what natural sciences, you know, was just an example. If that's what natural sciences claim, then philosophy, rational philosophy, has a veto power and must say, no, this is nonsense. When there is nothing, then there is nothing, and out of nothing, and if nothing can be created. So if anyone says there was nothing, and out of nothing something was created, who created it? How did it happen? Who knows? There was simply nothing. But when there is nothing, then there is nothing. So any theory that says, as an example, that says there was a beginning of this universe, of this whole existence sometime, then immediately tells you that, not immediately, but tells you that there is something wrong with this science. Then we have these lower floors where we have schools, where it's pretty good visibility, primary higher education, you know, people learn in schools, still foggy. You know, fog is everywhere. That's important. The fog is everywhere. But there are some lights here. So all these people who are in there, they can switch on lights so that they can see something at least, right? And the lower you are, the more you see. But you have to have the lights because all the fog around, all the fog is created by the top floor, by philosophers. They create the fog everywhere. But it's better down there because all these floors, all these people do not pay much attention to philosophy. They don't pay too much attention what the top people up there are saying. They just use their senses and their common sense of previous philosophies that we used to have centuries ago that were in contact with reality. And then we have the bottom floors where you have something that really still sort of works pretty well. Business, economy. It is very much influenced, of course. Everything here is influenced by these top floors, by intellectuals, and intellectuals are ultimately influenced by philosophers. So all of these floors are influenced by philosophical ideas indirectly, but anyone who wants to do business, anyone who wants to you know, travel, trade with something, and anyone who is you know, in police, military, they have to use their reason to act in reality. Otherwise, there will be no production, no defense, no police, nothing. If people were implementing explicitly what the philosophers tell them in their assumptions, right? In their assumptions. And then there's this important part. This is the foundation of the skyscraper, right? What do you see there in below the skyscraper? You see the garbage there, right? So it's the garbage. And what do you think will happen with the skyscraper when this is the foundation? One day it will collapse. You know, there are already cracks there. You know, there's already cracks there, but you know, people don't see them. Or let alone philosophers, they don't see them at all. But maybe someday will someone, you know, more and more people will see, oh, there are cracks there. There is something happening. Oh, let's look down here. What is down here? No one is aware what is down here, except one sort of people who know what is down there. Philosophers, they know. But they have no idea that they're in the fog. They think that's okay. That's the right foundation of our civilization, right? That they think, you know, whatever they now produce is ideas that are important and they should be taken seriously. And this is in essence the content of their ideas. This is metaphysics. You know, what the existence, what our world actually is. Is it a real existence, one world, or do we have two worlds? You know, one supernatural or natural. So this is full of garbage, and the garbage is, among others, as an example. You know, there are two realities. It's not just one reality that we have. There are two realities: supernatural and natural reality. Right? So there is something beyond existence, and beyond existence there is some other existence. That's one of the completely false ideas. There is a God, right? There is a God which is supposed to be a being that is beyond everything, beyond identity. He is omnipotent, unlimited, omniscient. He knows about everything. So all these ideas are mixed here in the foundations. Or our senses delude us. You know, we cannot rely on our senses. We don't know. Maybe, you know, maybe they're not reliable. Or all our concepts, our words, how do we use them? It's all subjective. You know, what is the definition of justice? Who knows? It's your definition. I have mine. Who knows which is the right one, right? So all is subjective. Morality, values, you know, it's good for you, maybe not good for me. So who knows? All of that, well, morality is already up there, right? So this is the base of everything is metaphysics and epistemology. How do we know? Well, we don't know. There is also piece of garbage is here. There is no free will. We don't have free will, right? That's the common position of modern philosophers. We're determined. We're determined by society. You know, how we were raised. We're determined. We don't have free will, right? It's all these questions are technical philosophical questions, which of course should be dealt with seriously and answered correctly, not just dealt with and ending up with nonsense or doubting and everything and never providing right answers. And if you provide completely wrong answers like we have no free will, then the whole philosophy and whole morality, whole justice and everything is completely out of the window. If we cannot choose how we act, what we think, then how, you know, why should we need any guidance? We're just robots, right? We're determined. So that's major piece of this garbage. There's, you know, everyone is determined. So this is just another look at or another take at how this implicit philosophy is fed, how it is communicated to people through various catchphrases, slogans, right? They're deadly carriers and transmitters of corrupt philosophical ideas, right? So when we saw the skyscraper there, these people are of course trying to use their own reason, but they're not immune. They're not immune to the ideas produced by these people up there. They're still getting all those ideas about morality and philosophy implicitly through, as I said, these various catchphrases, right? And we use these catchphrases when we clash with someone. We have some view, whatever it is. You know, we have been raised that way, so we think, you know, this could be correct, and we take it for granted. And when we clash with someone, when we discuss with someone who disagrees, then we use all these phrases and catchphrases and slogans and cliches as a final justification in the uncertainty, in the fog. We're also in the fog, right? You saw in the skyscraper that the bottom floors were not in the fog, but they were in the fog, which was not that thick as that one upstairs. So to get out of this fog, people are helping as a clutches, right? They're helping themselves with these catchphrases that they have absorbed automatically from the literature, from their parents, from films, newspapers, media, politicians. You hear it everywhere. And I left the Czech words there for Czech speakers just to know what is the Czech equivalent, right? This used to be a Czech presentation. I translated it to English. So it's just word splitting. So if you dispute with someone about meaning of some concept or definition, you end up your discussion. One of you ends up the discussion. Well, it's just the word splitting. It's just hair splitting. Don't be that pedantic, right? It's just word splitting. You know, just let it go. Public good. It's the most one of the most infectious catchphrase. Public good. No one questions that there could be anything like public good. What is it? We could spend an hour about explaining how irrational and toxic this concept is. Nothing is black and white, right? You use this phrase when, again, there is some dispute and you don't want to sort of antagonize someone in stating your clear opposition. so you sort of appease the opponent with, you know, nothing is black and white, so we, after all, we will find some common word or common position. Nothing is black and white, right? If you translated it into explicit philosophical ideas, it would tell you something like, this is a glass, and at the same time it is a cucumber. This is what it says, but it's hidden. Right? Nothing is black and white. There are no absolutes. You know, you're so certain in your position, but we all know there are no absolutes. And someone is criticizing someone morally, or the whole group of people, or the whole culture morally criticizing, evaluating. And the answer of someone who disputes your position, nobody is perfect, you know, we can't help it. Nobody is perfect. We're all somehow corrupt. Nobody is perfect. It's all infected concept. If you analyzed what it came from, where it came from, you would be immediately in philosophical discussions about morality, knowledge. What is knowledge? What is moral? What is the standard of morality? So all these carriers implicitly convey to you the ideas that you take for granted from the culture. That is your definition. Mine is different. That's it. That's the end of discussion, right? Someone tells you, or I tell someone what the government is, right? The government is a institution to enable in society objective use of retaliatory physical force against someone who initiates force, right? So there is a self-defense against initiation of force, and there is an institution of government which is here to put the defensive use of force under objective control, so that it's objective and not subjective, right? So there is someone who tells, well, this is the process you have to establish, you have to use to establish who is the initiator of force and who is defending themselves against that initiator. You have to have some procedures and everything. So that would be my definition of government, and someone says, well, that's your definition. I have my own. Who knows? That's her. That's who she is. You know, she can't help it. You know, it's determinism. It's immediately, it leads you to philosophy. You know, we're determined. You know, we can't help it. That's just me. You know, that's how I am. Can't help it. Oh yes, you can. We have a free will, right? But that's what philosophy, and not just philosophers, many scientists, that what they oppose. They say, no, we're determined. There is no free will. There is something transcending us, right? Something higher than us. An implication, we should be more humble, right? We cannot be certain. We cannot forcefully sort of present our ideas forcefully in the sense of being certain. You know, this is the way it should be. This is truth, right? No. There is something higher than us. We should be humble. We don't, you know, we are not certain. We don't know what exactly what the good is, and many other catchphrases, slogans. And this is how we swallow philosophical poison without noticing it, right? And then we give up, completely intellectually disarmed. We no longer can, you know, with self-confidence claim something, you know, this is how it should be. I'm not saying that it's everywhere and always, but in many cases, the more abstract ideas you're discussing, like morality, politics, it's not about, you know, should I, if I wanna, you know, go on bicycle, you know, the wheels should be round. It's not about this. Of course it should be round, otherwise there would be, you know, no movement of the bicycle, right? No one is disputing these lower level abstractions, you know, what is the wheel and what is the bike. But once you get to the higher level concepts, abstract concepts, extremely important concepts, what is justice, what is government, what is the good, what is morality, what is truth, what are rights, individual rights, then you're completely intellectually disarmed by all these catchphrases. This is just another example of, still have like 20 minutes, right? Yeah, I should go very, very fast. I'll skip this because I would not end it. This is just another example. Philosophy is everywhere. Ego a boty nechte venku. Let your shoes and ego stay outside. This is the way you get philosophy. On Facebook, you see this. Let your shoes and ego stay outside when you enter someone's apartment. Let your ego stay outside. Oh, what does it mean? Should let my ego stay outside. So what is entering then if my ego stays outside? Huh? Philosophy. Another example, you know, this is the most now common. You see it on the posters everywhere. Check Social Democratic Party, humanity versus selfishness. Oh, really? So it means that selfishness is not humane? And what is your definition of selfishness? What is the content of the concept? Well, you know, it's disregarding others. You know, it's just harming others. So that's selfishness. Just pursuing your whims, right? We're immediately in philosophy, right? So is it really what selfishness is? What is actually humane? What is the standard of the good? Philosophy. Immediately we're in philosophy. So all these pictures and everything you hear around you, you see everywhere, everything is implicitly carries some philosophical message. Philosophy is inescapable. It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous in every word, in every sentence we utter everything. Because are we aware of our assumptions? Most of the time we're not. Does all we take for granted make sense? Ayn Rand called this questioning our premise, questioning our assumptions, which is the role of philosophy. You know, taking them, bringing them up from, you know, being hidden somewhere implicit. We don't know about them. They're in these catchphrases. And she said always, check your premises. Make them explicit. Think about what you're actually saying. If you say there is no free will. If you say, we cannot prove existence. What are you saying? We cannot prove. Do you know what the concept of proof means? You don't know, otherwise you couldn't say such a nonsense. Prove existence. You cannot prove existence because existence, something that you can validate with your senses, that's the start, that's the beginning of anything you should prove afterwards, right? So check your premises, check what you're saying, make it explicit. As a human being, you have no choice about the fact that you need a philosophy. That's Ayn Rand. Your only choice is whether you define your philosophy by conscious, rational, disciplined process of thought and scrupulously logical deliberation, or let your subconscious accumulate a junk heap of unwarranted conclusions, false generalizations, undefined contradictions, undigested slogans that all we saw before, unidentified wishes, doubts, fears, thrown together by chance but integrated by your subconscious into a kind of mongrel philosophy. It's like a bastard mongrel, bastard, you know, it's a mishmash, right? Mongrel philosophy and fused into a single solid weight self-doubt. That's where you end up with when you let yourself just influenced by what everyone is saying, what is around you, without questioning the deepest assumptions. Like a ball and a chain in the place where your mind's wings should have grown. Right. The simplest way to understand how we get to philosophy is, as I said, any word, any sentence that anyone ever uttered, ever will say, utter, just ask why. And you will get some answer, right? Socialism is good, capitalism is unjust. Oh, really? Why? And you get some answer. Well, you know, socialism is, does not exploit people and does not produce inequality and does not, like capitalism, does not lead to monopolies. And first of all, socialism is not selfish, and capitalism is selfish. So you know that's why. Oh, really? So all of the arguments you now gave me, I will question them again, and I will ask you about all these concepts that you used, about exploitation, about monopoly. You know what monopoly is? You have no idea. If you read today's economics, you get nonsense. You have no idea what monopoly is, right? Every word, every concept has to be questioned. How was it? How did it arise? How was it developed? What does it rest on previous concepts? So why? How do you know? Why? Answer. So like 4 rounds, 5 rounds, and you're in philosophy. You cannot end up anywhere else. You end up in the deepest questions for which you should require answers from philosophers, base of our knowledge. And what is the base of all knowledge? We will see soon. So that's what philosophy deals with. What kind of world do we live in? What kind of being is man? Is he corrupt being from, beginning his birth, original sin, or is he a potential hero? That's philosophy. That's question for philosophy. What should I do? What is good? What is the standard of the good? How do I know all that? How do I know? What is reason? What is knowledge anyway? Do I need knowledge? If I create the world, if my mind creates the world, why should I know it? I could just create whatever I want. I just wish it. I just wish it was so. It were so. So it's going to be so. Maybe I should pray to God, and He will make it. Because if I wish enough, that's it. So maybe we don't need knowledge at all. Maybe we just need to submit, pray, and expect universe to somehow make us happy, make us live wonderfully. Does a stone need philosophy? Does an animal need philosophy? No. Why? Because the only creature in our world that we know needs philosophy, the creature that has a choice, volition. If we had no choice, we don't, as I said earlier, if we have no choice, we don't need philosophy. We don't need any guidance, moral guidance of what we should do. We're just robots. We're not aware of that, but we're robots. We're determined by our environment, by our parents. We can't help it, right? But if man is a volitional being, if there is something like a free will, then we do need a philosophy. We do need answers to basic fundamental questions that underlie all other answers. If those questions are answered wrongly, those deepest questions, then everything that rests on them is wrong, or almost everything. So we have choice to think and choice to act. That's why we need philosophy. Philosophy is a guide to live and pursue happiness in this world. There is no other world. which is of course very contentious, controversial questions. Maybe there are other worlds, who knows? Philosophy is here to answer this question. So this is the structure. This is the structure of philosophy. What I'm today supposed to cover, I still have a couple of minutes. I'll try to go really fast. We're supposed to talk about this primarily, metaphysics, about existence, identity, causality. And this is the most basic level starting point of philosophy. For us to think about anything, about what should I do, how should I act, what is good, does it make any sense? There has to be something. If there is not something, if there's nothing to talk about. And even I don't exist if there's nothing. Existence, identity, causality, there are natural laws. Are they in reality? So all that is subject of metaphysics. How do we know all this and all above that? This is the theory of knowledge, epistemology, that deals with the core of philosophy, apart from metaphysics. Concepts, because this is how we conceptualize, how we use our faculty, rational faculty, by using concepts, right? We're not just perceptual beings that have sense perception like animals. We have a big difference there, big separation. We have concepts that are tools of our knowledge of reality. So theory of knowledge. And then what should I do? Because we're volitional beings, what should I do? Morality, ethics. And what should we do in society? Should we have government? Why? What is government? What are the roles of the government, if any? What is the central purpose of the government? To protect individual rights. What are individual rights? What is capitalism? And so forth. So this is a structure of objectivism, right? So today we talk about metaphysics and this whole system that was developed by Ayn Rand she called it objectivism, and this is an integrated, consistent philosophical system. So metaphysics, again, as I said, it's about existence. There has to be something, otherwise there's nothing to talk about. To know something is to perceive. To perceive what? An object. So there has to be something, otherwise there is no knowledge, nothing. Who perceives a subject? So this is a starting point of our, not just of philosophy, but of all knowledge that we have, of everything that we do, that we know, starting point. There is a reality, there is something that exists, and there is someone who is aware, who is conscious of that existence. So these are starting points, axioms of our knowledge, of philosophy. Base of knowledge, this is the starting point. Existence, that's all that exists. It's not about what things are, but it's about that they are. There is something. And when there is something, then it is something and not something else, which is identity, right? So everything that exists is something. This is something, right? So the glass exists, and it is a glass. It is not at the same time the light or the wall. It is something, right? So identity is just another aspect of existence. There is no existence without identity. Identity stresses that whatever exists is something and cannot at the same time not be. So if this is, it cannot at the same time not be. And when it is something, then it is something, not something else at the same time. Identity and consciousness. Consciousness is, again, objectivist metaphysics calls it corollary. It is a It is immediate implication of, if I say something exists, the moment I said it, I am implicitly saying that I exist, and if I say it, that means that I am perceiving that existence, right? Otherwise, if I'm not perceiving, who is saying that? There has to be someone. There has to be a capacity to perceive reality, and that's consciousness. So these are the starting points of our knowledge. In Ayn Rand's words, quote, existence exists, and the act of grasping that statement implies two corollary axioms. That something exists which one perceives, and that one exists, possessing consciousness. By one, she means, of course, a being, a certain type of being, man, possessing consciousness. And consciousness is the faculty of perceiving that which exists, not creating that which exists. It perceives that which exists. Axioms are not arbitrary. They're inherent in any word we utter or action we take. They're inescapable, irreducible, unanalyzable. So what we see here is something that is undeniable. Any attempt to deny it at the same time affirms it. It's called affirmation through denial. When you try to disprove or not disprove, when you try to dispute that there is existence, identity, or consciousness, you cannot do it any other way than by already using these axioms, right? They're inescapable. In any attempt, you accept them implicitly. You cannot prove axioms because they're the beginning of proof, right? That something, as I said, that something exists is a beginning of the proof. It is a start of knowledge of everything that is built on that, and the concept of proof means what? The concept of proof means demonstrating that some piece of knowledge that I'm claiming as knowledge, that it was logically developed, logically inferred from previous knowledge. That's proof. If anyone tries to prove existence, from what could we, from what antecedent knowledge could we prove existence? There is nothing beyond or under existence. That's the starting point. We cannot go to non-existence and somehow infer from non-existence existence. That's nonsense, because what does not exist does not exist. So the starting point of all our knowledge and of all, starting point, you can just affirm existence is primary. It's an axiom. You cannot deny, because you're affirming, by denial, you're affirming that you exist, and there is something you talk about that exists. It's undeniable, it's inescapable. Existence cannot be proved, it can only be validated. Validated by showing how it is a starting point of anything we say, anything we claim as knowledge. So this is the role of axioms, starting point of knowledge. They're not arbitrary. They're perceptually self-evident. A small child, once it opens, his eyes or her eyes, they see or hear. This is something. There is something, existence. You cannot prove what your senses give you. This is a complete distortion, complete corruption of the concept of proof, if you want to prove something that is the start, beginning of any proof. It's self-evident. Try to prove existence, is what I said. And axioms are guardians of logic. So anything one claims in any subject, in any science, has to be ultimately reducible to these axioms. So if anything anyone claims could be shown that it denies these axioms' existence, identity, then that piece of knowledge is not knowledge. Whatever that claim says is invalid, is false. And this is why we need these axioms, because any claim ultimately has to be reducible to sense perception and to these axioms. Any statement analyzed and shown adhere to these axioms. So as an example, if someone says, we want equality of opportunity. If you spend enough time, not much, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I can show you how to wish or to want equality of opportunity denies identity. Because if I summarize it, we're different people, we're born in different places, to different parents, in different time. We cannot be equal. We're equal only in one thing, that we have capacity as humans to think if we're not mentally disabled or retarded. That's where we're equal. But in all other things, we are not equal. So anyone who wants this nonsense, equality of opportunity, is not immediately, but is ultimately, implicitly denying the axiom of identity. Man is what he is. Each man is what he is. Each person has a different, let's say, talents, different endowments, capabilities. How can you demand equality when we're unequal in all respects except one, that we have a rational capacity to reason. There's a second example, but I don't have time. Another important aspect of metaphysics, or part of metaphysics, is to establish that there are laws in the nature. There are entities, they exist, they have identity, and any entity, part of its identity, it's inherent in the identity of this glass, that it acts in a certain way. It acts differently than the ball. It acts differently than this piece of paper. I can hardly write on this. I can write on this. If this falls, it does not break, and this breaks, right, if it falls. So each entity acts in a certain way given its identity. So there are causal laws. Entities act in a certain way, and that's part of their identity. So the major principle in metaphysics is universally valid, is causality. A leaf turns yellow in October and falls from the tree. It cannot do otherwise. It simply falls in either October or whatever. It has to fall sometime. It, turns its color during, its existence, certain leaf, right? Because it's dictated by the nature of that leaf, and not just by the nature of that leaf, but everything that acts on that leaf. There is certain weather, there is certain climate, there is certain type of tree, and so forth and so forth. And all the entities that exist in some way act on that particular entity, and all this together dictates what the entity does. So causality is actually the identity, part of identity, an aspect of identity, which is how the entity acts, not just what it is, but how it acts. So what entity is implies what it does. How it acts is determined and dictated by its nature. It's not anything additional related to its nature. It is its nature. That's important. It is its nature. what it does is its nature. Its identity of that entity. Identity of a thing is what the thing is, not just what it is, what properties it has. This is you know, transparent. I can see through it. It's not just what it is. How can I describe it? But it's also what it does. Right? That's all part of its identity. So it's causal. There are causal laws, which means that entity acts in a certain way. So what metaphysics does is to establish, based on the fundamental axioms, sort of immediate implication of that, of these axioms, or part of axiom of identity, causality. This is what metaphysics establishes, that there is a law of, or principle of cause and effect in reality, in nature, aspect of the identity. That's what metaphysics tells us. But man, then comes a man, a being that tries to discover these laws, right? And this is important to distinguish, that what we need to know reality is to scientifically discover these natural laws, because we need to know reality, we need to understand these causal laws to be able to act and survive in reality. Right? So we know that there are laws, but we have to gradually discover them scientifically. But philosophically, we have to establish, regardless of any particular law, like law of gravity, law of whatever, motion, physical laws, biological laws. Independently and prior to that, we need to establish philosophically, to identify causality as a general principle, that it's not up to us if we have enough evidence that we have seen enough, you know, of a regularity, that the sun in the morning, you know, rises and in the evening it goes down. By our observation, we discover that there are some laws in the planetary movements and the orbiting planets and Earth. We gradually discover it by a certain method, induction in this case, and we establish, oh, we have now learned a law that exists in reality. But this law, this causal law, does not exist only after we have discovered it. It already existed. That's the extremely important philosophically established principle, that all what entities do, all what exists in reality does as an expression, as a manifestation of causal laws, that entity act in a certain way, and they have to act in a certain way. So we're not uncertain today if we have seen 10,000 times that the sun is going up and then goes down. Maybe you know, tomorrow I will look and maybe this is not going to be this way. You know, I don't know. It's all uncertain. You know, how can I know? And that was what important philosopher David Hume said. He attacked causality and completely destroyed causal law, which is called problem of induction. You know, how can we be sure that the sun will tomorrow? Because if we see something many times, you know, repeated, and we can use all the experiments and everything, we're still not certain. Right? We will never be certain. We would have to be omniscient. Right? That's the implicit standard. We have to be omniscient. No. That the entity act in a certain way and has to act in a certain way, that's established by philosophy, by metaphysics. And our way to discover it is scientific, by certain process, by certain method. So this is extremely important example how philosophy, how important philosophy is in metaphysics, that it has to establish causality as something that necessarily, inherently exists in reality as aspect of existence. Identity is an aspect of existence. So existence is an absolute. Consciousness does not create existence, it perceives existence. We cannot have consciousness and then consciousness creates existence. We cannot have that because we cannot even come to the concept of consciousness because this is a relational concept. Consciousness of what? There cannot be consciousness and then all of a sudden there's some consciousness somewhere and then it decides, all right, I will create existence. Before it creates existence, there is no consciousness. It doesn't make sense to talk about consciousness because consciousness is consciousness of what? It is like if you say there is an uncle, right? There is an uncle. But there is no one there. There's just a person and his uncle. But there has to be a nephew or niece, right? If you have no nephew related to the uncle and niece or niece related to uncle or mother and child, it cannot be mother just without anything. It is a relation of something to something else, and only then it makes sense to use that concept. Mother involves two people. A certain type of human being who is in some relationship, specific relationship to some other being. So that's the same thing if one says consciousness. We can start with consciousness. No, we cannot start from consciousness. We have to start with existence because there is no consciousness of nothing. Consciousness, to be able to identify itself as consciousness, can only identify if there is something to be conscious of, right? If there is something existing that consciousness can perceive, is able to perceive. So existence has primacy. Consciousness is to perceive reality, not create it. Facts are what they are, regardless of our ideas, what consciousness wants or does not want. If we have a volitional choice, we can make up all kinds of nonsense, all kinds of ideas, imaginations and everything. But they have to ultimately adhere, and if they don't adhere, we have to reject them. They have to adhere to something that exists independent of us, and that's the facts of nature, facts of existence, including natural laws, or causal laws in nature. So the opposite of primacy of existence is the claim, no, as I said, primacy of existence. I wish it were so, right? And it's mostly implicit. No one tells you, I wish this was all of a sudden a banana. No one tells you that. But it's implicit. If someone tells you, consciousness is supposed to reproduce the existence, the way we perceive, the way our senses operate, they're supposed to reproduce, like a fax machine, right? Like a copy machine. They're supposed to copy reality. Only if they exactly copy reality, then they're, then we're confident that they're reliable, right? So this is an example of primacy of consciousness. Consciousness says to itself, I wish my goal, my function was to reproduce existence, to show a picture of the existence that is around me, in me. That's the role of consciousness. No. The role of consciousness is to not reproduce existence, but to perceive it, and it has to perceive it by something. Consciousness also has identity. Consciousness is some mental capacity, starting with senses, and on top of senses we have conceptual faculty, and that's the consciousness we have as human beings, and it has specific identity, and it is not supposed to reproduce existence, but to identify it, right? It's a huge philosophical error, and that's translated, could be translated to primacy of consciousness. I just think it should be so. I just think this is what consciousness should do, but it doesn't, you know. The rails, right? When we have the railroad rails, they go to the far distance, and they get they're closer and closer. They get near and near. We have the picture of the rails, you know, going near, 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 and we say, well, our senses delude us. We shouldn't see it in this way. We should see the rails all the time same, but they're doing this, right? So the senses delude us. No, this is again primacy of consciousness. I wish our senses gave us this picture, but that's not what they give us. They give us something else because they have their identity. That's how they operate. They exist and they need to perceive the way they perceive. This is not my choice. This is not human choice. What my eyes see, I haven't chosen that. I have chosen my concepts and how I interpret what I see, how I interpret conceptually. But what I see, I haven't chosen that, right? Or perfect competition, right? We hear all the time that we should have perfect competition. If you analyze what this, one of the most destructive concepts of economics, what it actually rests on, you would be horrified, right? We need perfect competition. Endless number of companies, no company has any influence on the price, right? And the perfect information, everyone knows everything. Buyers know everything, sellers know everything, and that's perfect competition. Well, I wish this is the world, we had. That's perfect, but we don't have it, so we need to have this government antitrust law to bring us closer, to force us by gun closer to this model of perfect competition. So that's just another example of primacy of consciousness. I wish it were so. No, this is a completely wrong approach. We need to have an approach that this is what is necessary by the nature of things. I'm already very, can I continue? Yeah. So again, primacy of existence, just another example, our knowledge has to adhere to reality because knowledge is what our consciousness does. It perceives reality and it gives us knowledge of what is in reality, and we're able to act on that knowledge and to adhere to natural laws, to use natural laws to act and to live, right? And what this picture tells us is that our knowledge has to conform, adhere to reality, most importantly on the conceptual level, where we have not just these lower level concepts like everyone knows what this is, everyone knows what this is. This is a shoe, right? Everyone knows that this is a chair, this is a suitcase. Everyone knows that. These are simple concepts. But the higher I go with my concepts, we get concepts like furniture. Well, still almost everyone or all people know what furniture is. But maybe almost no one knows what morality is, what the good is. These are very abstract concepts that cover a lot of reality, almost everything. Existence, morality, rights, justice, egoism. These are very high-level abstract concepts that I need to make sure they ultimately respect reality, ultimately cover by how I use them, how I define them. They are my tools to know, conceptual tools to know reality, to perceive it. So this is the current state of our abstract knowledge, right? This is how it should be. This should be our map. There is a reality, and we use the map, we go to some place, and when we don't know the place intimately, we have never been there, we use a map, because the map tells us, oh, this is a lake, and this is a road, and this is a railroad, and these are mountains and everything. So the map gives us in some form knowledge about reality. This is our guide how we should act in reality to know it. Know, you know, there is a lake. What does it mean? There is a lake. Oh, I cannot go there unless I can swim. I cannot go to the lake if I don't, you know, I have to go around that, right? If I cannot swim. But we don't have that anymore with higher level concepts, with moral concepts or political concepts, let alone philosophical concepts like causality or existence or identity. We don't have that. We have this fuzzy picture where this it may be the lake, but maybe it's a mountain. We don't know. And this red line, maybe this is a road, but we're not certain. Maybe sometimes we can call it road, and sometimes it's a railroad, right? Oh, maybe it's a river. We don't know. Maybe it's a river. You know, this could be a lake, but this could be a river. We don't know. And these gray spots, they might be a city, right? There might be a certain city, but in exactly the same way, I'm depicting the mountains. But so I don't know. So maybe this is maybe we should discuss. We should have some consensus how to use the map. We don't know, right? So this is the state of our abstract knowledge. This is how we perceive reality. We're completely lost. Try to use this map. If I told you what the map, how it should be interpreted, try to use it. Good luck with your trip. This is just a recap or summary of what I said. So I have made a big distinction between something that is a product of human choice, ideas, actions, they're a product of my choice. I have chosen to do this. I have chosen to create this. I have chosen how to use ideas. As opposed to something that I have not chosen. My nature as a man, the nature of rocks, the nature of planetary motions, I have not chosen that. That's independent reality. That's existence that we need to perceive and to get to know, acquire knowledge about. So objectivist metaphysics makes the extremely important distinction between metaphysically given and man-made. Whatever is metaphysically given is dictated by the axioms, existence, laws of nature, causality, identity, apart from and independent of our wishes, of our choice, of our ideas. And we have to, whatever is metaphysically given, its existence, that's existence. And we have to accept it without evaluation, right? So that sometimes it rains, you know, we may not like it, but this is the way existence is. This is the way the world is on this planet. That it sometimes rains, sometimes it's fog. We have to accept it. We cannot say, well, I wish it wasn't, and I have my choice. We can choose otherwise. We don't want this fog. We would like to have sun all the time and warm. So this is metaphysically given. It's absolute. As against man-made, which is everything that is a product of human choice. But product of human choice is also this, right? So this is a very important to realize that whatever man has created by his choice becomes a fact. But the point is that it didn't have to be. It didn't have to be. So we should evaluate it, what man created. And if man creates wrong things, things that are not respecting and reflecting and accepting reality and tries to do it otherwise, tries to rebel against something he cannot change, then we have to take a different approach. We have to evaluate it. We have to challenge it. Is it right or not? Because this is a product of my choice. I could have chosen otherwise. So we have to test it. We have to test it and evaluate it. Evaluate it how? Against some standard. Is it good or is it not good? And that's where morality enters. We have to have some standard of the good, of value, right? So whatever man chooses, be it ideas, be it actions, be it creations, whatever he creates, has to be tested whether it is morally evaluated, whether it is in conformity with existence. And in the case of man, whether it is in conformity because it's a moral evaluation with his life, because his life is something that comes in our later lecture. It is a standard of the good. It is a standard of morality. Human life, right? I want the human life to continue. I want to remain in existence. So I have to accept it. If I want to remain in existence and not be dead, I need to respect existence. So I have to test whatever I choose, because I have choice. I have to test it, whether it conforms to the laws of reality, right? I have to evaluate it. Is it good? Is it not good? And when we don't distinguish these things, when we don't distinguish what is metaphysically given, what I cannot change, I have to accept. When I fail to distinguish this and what is man-made, this has disastrous consequences. Like if we say, well, things like car theft or communism. Well, the car, it's a fact. There are cars there, it's a fact. Should I evaluate it? Of course I should evaluate it based on some, standard of evaluation, standard of the good. Is it good for my life? Is car a good thing? Is theft, if someone steals something from you, this is theft. Is it good or is it not good? Based on what standard? You have to evaluate what people do. Sometimes they steal. So we have to evaluate it whether it is in conformity with human life, which is the standard of our all values, ultimate standard. Do we accept all of them because we are realists? We all have heard it, right? Be realistic. Be realistic. Don't try to change this. Be realistic. That's how perverse our language, has become long ago. Be realistic. Don't distinguish, something can be changed and something cannot be changed. Something must be changed if we're supposed to continue our lives, remain in existence. And then on the other hand, someone does not respect what is metaphysically given, like someone who tries to establish equality of opportunity. Equality of opportunity is exactly that. That's failure to distinguish something that is metaphysically given. It's metaphysically given that we're different by nature, so we cannot be equal. So anyone who says we should have equal opportunities, he says nonsense, because he violates the basic metaphysical distinction. This is existence. This is identity. You have to accept it. I wish we were equal. We're not equal. We cannot be equal. And what we also have to accept is human nature, that we have certain nature, and according to our nature, we should deal with people. Important part of our nature is that we have volition, that we can choose. So we cannot have systems like political systems like communism, because communism denies a need of man by nature to use his rational capacity to lead his life by his tool of knowledge. His only tool of knowledge is reason, and communism is a negation of that. Communism tells him, don't act, on your based on your self-interest. Don't act as an individual. Just be part of the collective. You have to pursue not your own self-interest. You have to pursue public good, right? You have to not to be anti-social. That's what we hear. You're anti-social, right? You're selfish. And communism, of course, is a consequence of rejection of selfishness as a rational morality. Of course, rationally defined selfishness. So we have to test. We have to test and challenge everything that is product of volition, and we have to accept and reflect it in our choices. We have to respect nature, including human nature, as a volitional, rational being, or being with rational capacity. And based on that, we have to develop our standards of the good, what is good for us, and what is good to, how to organize our lives in society, how to deal with with one another, people. Do we deal with one another by force or by persuasion? And this has to be based by human nature. And human nature is having a rational capacity to be able to know the world, to behave in it, to act in it. So you cannot deny it. You have to accept it. That's why only certain type of organization of political system or function of political system, only certain type is consistent with human nature, namely free society, capitalism, which of course will be discussed in the later session in a couple of weeks from now. So I'm so sorry, I have really completely crossed my time limit, but yeah, this is the sources of information about objectivism. You will get it all, on the PowerPoint presentation that will be, I assume, will be available for download. So you will have all these sources, online sources there. It's of course also on the mobile apps. There is a Ayn Rand University app, which gives you a tons and tons of content of materials. And this is just a sample. There are many others. Most of them are English. The only Czech source is Ayn Rand .cz and certain YouTube channel and Facebook profiles. There are some books here for whoever is here. If you want to buy books here in person, or their books can be or other material like audio recordings, lectures can be downloaded from various places on the web. Here they are. And again, I'm stressing what I have said in the beginning. What I have told you is just a scratch of the surface. I have not tried to defend anything. I have just tried to get your interest, to inspire you to study something which is very serious. Very serious. This is a serious philosophy. And no one who, in my view, this is my personal view, no one who wants to claim that he, at least in essentials, understands what objectivist system is about, how it's structured, what it claims. No one can claim that without not just reading, understanding this book. This is by far the most important books in the whole objectivist literature and any material that will that systematizes the philosophy as one integrated system. This is the book. Of course, this is for English speakers. This is Czech translation. Of course, there is original available on Amazon. This is available, you know, on these Czech websites that we have where it can be purchased. Thank you, and check your premises. That's not mine, my quote. That's Ayn Rand quote. Very important. Always ask, how do I know it? How do I know it? What do I assume implicitly? I should better check what I assume and make it explicit. Thank you. So if there are any questions online or President, I'm really sorry about being completely out of my time or overtime. I don't know what to say. I just...